Timmins really is a mining town. Originally a company town built just after the turn of the 20th century to service Hollinger's gold mine and the gold rush that rose up all around it. But today, with its biggest mine set to close in the year 2022, Timmins, like many northern communities, is on the lookout for other economic opportunities. Joining us now to consider where things are and where they're going, we welcome Steve Black, Mayor of Timmins; Maggie Mateer, Director of Community Development, Timmins Economic Development Corporation; Brianna Humphrey, owner of Radical Gardens, a farm, a restaurant, and an online farmers market; Jason Batiste, Executive Director, Wabun Tribal Council; and Paul Woodward, Vice President of the Bucket Shop, which is where we are right now. Thank you, first of all, for giving us such a warm welcome to Timmins. On behalf of all of us at TVO, it's great to be here again. And maybe I should just give you the first word here. We're in your place, the Bucket Shop. What's the significance of that name?
Well, I think the name really says it all. We specialize and cater to the local mining industry and basically all surface and underground operations that are moving ore require buckets, and it's this that we've chosen to make part of our core business here today.
It's awfully neat for a place that deals in mining.
Well, it is brand new. We're not quite moved in yet, and if you were to come here in a year from now, I assure you it wouldn't look anything like it is today, nor would it be as quiet.
Hopefully noisier and messier.
Absolutely so.
Okay, gotcha. Let's set up this discussion this way. We just spoke to a group of graduating students. They're just graduating high school very shortly and have their respective plans for the future. And I'm sorry to say none of them indicated that they are actually intending to stay in Timmins for the immediate future. Who knows down the road whether they'll come home. But in the immediate future, they said they wanted to go out and see what else was out there. I put this forward, Statistics Canada's 2016 census, showing that the population here in Timmins decreased to 41,000 and change from 43,000 and change 5 or 6 years ago. And I guess, Your Worship, I'll give you the first word on this. How concerned are you about that?
Well, I think it's an issue that all the mayors, especially the 5 regional hub mayors, have been talking about for some time. When we get together with our group, it's called NOLOM, Northern Ontario Large Urban Mayors. Out-migration and youth retention is often one of the issues we discuss. When you look at the Timmins statistics, if you go back 5, 6 years ago, it's just after the metallurgical site had closed down on the Extrada operation, so there was a big loss of jobs during that transition, and that factors in somewhat to the population decline. But we know our students often go away to school, post-secondary school, university, and trying to attract them back to the community is definitely one of our focuses and one of the things that we need to try and step up our game to reverse the trends in Northern Ontario. Gotcha.
Mr. Director, can we go to a wide shot here? I want to have a show of hands here. Who is born and raised in Timmins originally? Hands up. Oh, isn't that fascinating? Okay, so you're all transplants to this place. Where are you from originally, Maggie?
Kirkland Lake.
You're from Kirkland Lake?
I grew up in North Bay.
North Bay?
Mount Albert.
Where's that?
Southern Ontario. Lindsay, Stouffville, Newmarket.
Okay, so a couple hours east of Toronto.
Yes.
Okay.
Oshawa.
You're from Oshawa.
I am.
The mayor of Timmins is from Oshawa. Okay, Brianna?
I've been here since I was a small child, but I was born in Temagami. I moved here when I was in grade 2.
Okay, I need to find out then what brought you up here, because you are all representative of a different story that is normally what we hear, which is that people leave more than they come. What brought you here?
My husband was starting a mining exploration business. We came for a year, and that was 1992. We're still here.
You plan to stay for a year?
Yes.
And it's 25 years later?
That's right.
Huh, okay.
My home community is Matachewan First Nation. I'm a member there. Our community joined a tribal council here in Timmins, and I came in on as a junior employee 25 years ago and have made my Timmins my home for the last 25 years.
Again, short term turning into the long term.
Correct.
Okay, very good. Paul?
My father was brought to the community by Caterpillar at the time, which was with Crothers, and we've been here ever since.
And Mr. Mayor, what brought you up from Oshawa?
I came up for a 16-month internship, mining engineer by background, so I came up to work at one of the mines on a student co-op placement. And despite the challenges of some out-migration, when you look at mining communities, Timmins was really definitely one of the larger centers for mining and offered really the most amenities to set up shop and set up a permanent home.
So you've been here how long now?
2004 as a student, 2006 full-time.
Huh. Can I ask how old you are?
34.
Are you the youngest mayor in Ontario?
I'm not sure if I'm the youngest mayor in Ontario right now. I know I'm the youngest mayor in the city of Timmins history.
Youngest mayor in the city of Timmins.
I
Okay.
made the top 12 in Canada, I believe, on the list in Wikipedia.
Okay. Okay. Brianna, what brought you up here?
My parents actually own a high voltage electrical cleaning company that mostly deals with mining and large industry. So they moved me here when I was a kid.
They moved you here when, okay, so you didn't have any choice in coming here, unlike the others, but you've stayed.
Relatively speaking. I did leave for quite some time, but in the end I came back. I love Timmins. I wouldn't want to go anywhere else.
What brings you back?
I was living downtown, well, I was living in Barrie and commuting into Toronto every day, and I hated it a lot.
It's a long commute.
Yeah, it sucked.
So the commute now, from home to your restaurant,
From home to restaurant to farm in a beautiful little triangle is about 4 minutes.
that's a lot better than Barrie to Toronto.
It sure is.
Yeah, I got it. What's kept you here?
I think the people. When I first started off at the mine, I think I was thinking, maybe 3-4 years to get the engineering license. But I found it was such a friendly community. You can really walk out, and I transitioned this to a story I tell back home. My parents were in Toronto for a couple of years as my dad had some health issues and he was in the hospital. And I went down there, and as I was walking down the street, I was saying hi to every person that I went by, and some of them, were younger kids and with the piercings and tattoos and the dyed hair. And my mom got all nervous. She said, "Steve, what are you doing?" And I said, "It's just what we do in Northern Ontario, Mom. We say hi to people. We're a very friendly community. It's a very welcoming community, and I enjoyed it. When you look at being able to go outside any night and see the stars instead of smog, or go outside and listen to the wildlife instead of the cars and the busy day-to-day city, it's just a beautiful place to grow."
Paul, what's kept you here?
No question, the people and, excuse me, the opportunity to do business in the north. And there's a wide range of opportunity here in the north. We believe in the people, and it's served us very well as a family as we've consistently grown since the bucket shop was put into play in 1990. So only after 6 years of moving to Timmins, we took a different course, and the bucket after high school, this has become my life, and certainly the family's committed to seeing it continue.
Let me follow up. You say the economic opportunities up here. That is not necessarily the story that we frequently hear in the South, namely that there are economic opportunities north of the French River.
Absolutely.
But you see them.
Absolutely.
What are they?
Well, I mean, if you have a look around and you see what we've done here today, I think it's important to understand what's happening in the region and reach out. But it's important to be diversified, be flexible, be thinking outside the box, and that's something that I think as a company we've done very well at, and it's served us well and it's allowed us to continue to grow since 1990.
Maggie, you ever think about leaving?
I have, but it's, as Paul says, the people and the opportunity keep me here. The fact that I have a house here that I could never afford if I were living in Toronto or the Golden Horseshoe area means a lot to me. The breathing space, the fresh air, the forest, the fact that literally the river is at my front door. It's a quality of life that I would find it very difficult to replicate anywhere else.
Jason, how come you stayed?
Well, Timmins happens to be in the middle of the traditional area of the 5 First Nations that I work for, so it's very near and dear to our heart, not to mention the fine folks that live here. I mean, the interaction between the Aboriginal community, I think, in Timmins could be used as an example for other municipalities to copy their actions by. I mean, we have a wonderful relationship with the Chamber of Commerce here. We do a lot of business together with the local mines. We have our communities working on arrangements and impact benefit agreements with the local operators. So, for us, this is home. It always has been home. Thousands of years of history in the area, and that's not going to change. We do suffer from the out-migration as well, but for the most part, our folks are coming back to their traditional roots here and coming back to their culture and the ways that their grandfathers taught them. So it's very important to us.
I know there are people in the South who think we're pretty far north right now, but I'm about to read a quote to you from somebody who's even further north. This is the Cultural Program Coordinator at the Native Canadian Centre of Toronto, who was born in Moosonee. And he said this to us, apropos of our discussion about economic development. One of the challenges is that when we talk about economic development in the north, we tend to talk about resource jobs, mining and forestry. But those only have so much capacity and lifespan in terms of jobs. And then we promote education. People go south only to get educated for a job we don't have in the area. Does that resonate with you, Maggie?
To some extent, yes. And there are things that the City of Timmins, along with other northern municipalities, are doing to change that, to build the knowledge economy and to build job opportunities in arts and culture. And it's something that we're starting with. And we're getting into a bit of a chicken and egg situation now where we're starting to create the opportunities and the jobs, but we don't have the people to fill them yet. And so what we're finding is that that shift from the resource-based economy to more of a knowledge-based economy is also creating a bit of a shift in how we educate people locally and how we advertise for professionals to come up here.
I should say, Paul, it's not completely noiseless in here
No,
anymore.
it's not, and
The
I
fans are working.
apologize for that, and there might be something I can do about that quickly if you wish.
That's all right. We'll just we'll play it as it lies, as they say in the golf world. Follow up on that, though. You mentioned that you're bringing in some new ideas or some new programs in order to create a kind of infrastructure here that would keep people beyond mining and forestry. Like what?
We're looking at a number of different diversification opportunities. An English language university could form a cluster of knowledge professions, because out of universities come research opportunities as well as education opportunities. And we also know that there's a strong correlation between where students complete their undergraduate education and where they decide to set up shop.
So, Your Worship, you've clearly made the case to Queen's Park that a northern university in Timmins would be a really important thing for stabilizing the out-migration and so on. What's been the response?
Yeah, I think when you look at the necessity for a university, I mean, it's in the Northern Growth Plan to put a focus on the 5 regional hubs to focus on post-secondary education.
You want to say what those are, the 5 hubs?
Timmins, Sudbury, North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, and Thunder Bay. They're the 5 large cities in Northern Ontario. And if you look around, the other 4 all have an English-based university. So we need the provincial government to recognize that things are a little different in Northern Ontario. But if you want it to prosper and grow and continue to be part of the economic engine that it always has been for Ontario, that you need to put some of those resources up here as well.
Hey, that sounds better. There we go. Jason, do you think it's possible to reverse the brain drain?
Well, for our communities, I think it is, because we're actually on the other end of where Timmins is from. We haven't had any opportunity to participate in a meaningful way in these mining operations that have been around us for 100 years. I mean, our communities are just coming into their own and finding out about how to participate and making agreements with the mining companies that are allowing us to get on the other side of that swing. So I think there's hope for our communities. While our kids are going to school in Toronto, because of course we don't have any educational infrastructure other than a couple of small public schools. We really need those kids to come back and to start to help to grow our own communities. Our unemployment statistics are fantastic right now. We've got my home community, Matachewan, with our relationships with these companies. If you're not working, you're not really trying that hard to look, or with a little bit of help from the community, we should be able to place folks into meaningful employment. And we're looking at the Alamos mine in Matachewan, for example, running out till 2038. So it's not just short term. It's a fairly significant chunk of time that we can depend on the mining industry for employment.
Brianna, do you think it's possible to reverse the brain drain?
Yeah, I think Timmins has always had a huge problem with losing all of its youth all the time. I've spent most of my life here, so it's something I constantly hear about. I'm also kind of on the fringe of Timmins and its subculture. We're very much a very bizarre company. We throw music festivals and tend to love to stir the pot, and we have crazy ideas like medical marijuana cooking classes and stuff like that to really kind of spur change. And what I hear most is that most of our youth just feels disenfranchised, and they feel like there's nothing here. There's no culture for them. Is
that accurate?
I feel like it is. I feel like it's definitely on the verge of change. Like we have a brewery, we have many new restaurants opening, we have the first independent art gallery downtown. It's nice to see it evolve. It's mostly happening by people like my age, in our mid-30s, that have been here for a while, but now have the capital to back up the stuff that we're saying.
I should follow up on the music angle, because this city is spending a pretty penny trying to attract, and you have attracted, you will attract some pretty big name stars to come up here later in the summer for a music festival. What went into that decision?
Well, I think, as Brianna mentions, it is starting to change, and we've seen some great locally community-sponsored festivals to pick up the Heart of Gold Festival, Rock on the River. You know, there's a few groups that have been putting on things, but it is Canada's 150th and Ontario's 150th birthday, and we wanted to do something special, and we had our fireworks company that normally does our shows approach us and ask us if we'd be interested in putting on an international fireworks competition, and we kind of outlined starting from there, and then said, well, if we're going to have an international fireworks competition, we should probably have some entertainment to go with it, so that it's not just people coming out to watch 20 minutes of fireworks and going home for the night. So
who do you got coming up?
We've got a great lineup. So if you go through the headliners, obviously the big name on the tickets, Keith Urban. So he's going to be performing with Johnny Reid on July 1st. So a great night of country music to kick off Canada Day. We have Cold Creek County and the Washboard Union, who were two of the top nominated artists in the Canadian Country Music Artist Awards. On Thursday, we go back a little older rock with April Wine, Alan Frew and the Box. Wednesday, we have Headley and Alyssa Reid. Tuesday is Simple Plan and Lights. Monday is Tom Cochran with Red Rider, Joel Plaskett, and JJ Shiplet. On Sunday, we have David Wilcox and Sash Jordan.
Okay, you got some good names there from
it's going to be a big week.
From decades back and now.
Not to mention fireworks every night.
And fireworks. Okay, here's the question. How much is the city spending on this?
Well, hopefully by the end of it, nothing. So the goal is for the ticket sales to and revenues from the festival and our sponsors, Paul being one of them on the fireworks side with his group of companies that he works hard with to sponsor our Canada Day fireworks. So we have, I believe we're up over around 470,000 of in-kind support donations from around the community, and over $120,000 in cash contributions right now.
Upfront cost, so?
The total festival cost is just sitting around $4.2 million.
And the city is paying for that at the moment?
The city's fronting the festival. So we've already sold over $3 million worth of ticket sales. So we have about $1 million to go left to break even going into the final 2 months of ticket sales, which we expect things to pick back up.
What do we think of this?
Steve is very aware of my somewhat opposition. It's not that I don't want a festival in Timmins by any means. I obviously want music and fun things and beautiful things to happen in the city to retain people and to drum up tourism and to help increase our economy. However, I just feel like that's a lot of money for our city right now. Right now, as it stands, we just don't have a very diversified economy. We have a lot of people that are very broke, and I'm going to bring up the road thing, even though like we all know that the province helps out on that. And like,
what's the road thing?
Supposed to help out.
Supposed to help out, and like the province isn't giving us nearly as much money to help with the infrastructure of our city, but our infrastructure as a whole is like kind of brutal right now. And while I think this is a great idea, I just think that like sometimes there's a disconnect, and there's a lot of things being said on Facebook that are maybe true and may not be true, and at the end of the day, I just want to make sure that this is not held on the shoulders of taxpayers and who already have very high taxes, and like our property taxes, like especially for someone like myself that owns 3 properties in the city and is a very small business owner, it gets to be very
Onerous.
Yeah, it's.
All right, Maggie, give me your take on this concert. $4 million of upfront spending by the city. You've got $3 million coming back. Is it worth the expenditure?
I think resource towns tend to fall into a bit of a cycle where we follow the commodity cycles, and we're either booming and too busy to do anything, or maybe not booming and don't have a lot of money to do anything. But with that said, we have to take some risks, I think, to be able to move forward. We have to change the way we've been doing things for the last 50 or 60 years if we're going to make any progress. So I think, you know, the mayor has put forward something that's different from what we've ever done. Certainly there's some risks, but it's also going to put us on the map as one of the biggest festivals in Canada this year. It also has the potential to turn around a lot of preconceived notions about what Timmins has to offer with the people coming into the city.
Paul, you hearing much grumbling about the upfront expenditures?
Well, there's always going to be, you know, the doomsdayers out there. I think Steve's idea is fantastic, and I for one support it. And there's a large group of people that do support the thinking. And for quite a while, Timmins has been fairly well known for not supporting local events, or they've been very slow to jump forward. And the fact that the festival is already has $3 million worth of ticket sales with $1 million to go, I think that speaks volumes for the mayor's vision, and it is the mayor's vision, and it did come under some fire. There's no question. But I think the naysayers, I think some of that is quietened down, but I mean, the proof will be in the pudding at the end. But it's about trying to find the positives in that, and anybody can sit back and throw stones from a distance, and social media is a great way to do that, type away and say what you feel like saying that particular day. But I think if we stay positive and we come together as a community, that this is going to come off without a hitch, and it'll be the best thing that's ever happened to Timmins.
Mayor Black, how far away do you expect people to come for this festival?
Well, we've actually seen sales so far in 4 different countries. We've sold tickets in 5 different states in the U.S., and we've sold tickets in 9 different provinces and territories across Canada. If you look at some of the recognition we got when Expedia came out with their top 17 places to visit in 2017, Timmins was on that list. That's not a list that you would see Timmins crack really in its past history. So I think there is a lot of positivity about that. I think some of the large misconceptions are just that if we didn't do the festival, we'd have $4 million to go spend on roads and potholes and infrastructure. We don't have that money in the budget. We're using the revenue from the festival to pay for the festival. So we haven't put out $4 million that we could reallocate anywhere else. The concept is we budget it to break even, so the revenues coming in pay for the expenditures going out.
I understand. Do you know whether the people who are coming from the United States or from those other countries are coming here for work-related things, and while they're in town they will take in the festival, or are they coming expressly for the festival?
I think what you're probably seeing is a lot of people that have at one point connected to Timmins or have family, friends in Timmins that normally wouldn't necessarily make the journey to Timmins for a week-long event, but this is a great opportunity to reconnect family. We've heard neighboring communities where people are having family reunions with 40 or 50 people, and for their celebration for the family reunion for the night, they're going to come down to Timmins and enjoy the festival. So I think you're seeing that a lot of that. It's given people a reason to come back to Timmins, a reason to come up and visit their friends and family in Timmins.
And we'll let you plug it again. What's it called, the festival?
Stars and Thunder Festival, www.starsandthunder.com.
Gotcha. Okay, Maggie, I want to go to you about, we know the Kidd Creek mine is closing. Now it's another, 5 years before it totally shuts down?
About that.
So there will be still some economic development related to it over that period of time. But what about beyond that? What are you thinking in terms of the economic development and diversification of the future of this area once Kidd Creek closes?
Well, we have a strategic plan, actually, that was developed about a few years ago to address exactly that, to put us in a better position to be able to prepare for that. I think one of the things that often gets overlooked, too, is when one phase of Kidd Creek closed down a few years ago, there were 600 people who were laid off as a result, but they almost all got absorbed by other mining developments and other businesses that were starting up in Timmins. And right now, we have at least 3 mines that are very close to getting into development stage.
And what are they mining?
Various minerals, gold, copper, I believe graphite is one of them. There's quite a few different types of minerals being looked at. But we do have several of them that are in the pipeline and that are gearing up for production. So we anticipate that a lot of the people who will be leaving Kidd Creek will have opportunities to go into the new ones. And that's life in a mining town. Some mines will close down, others will open up. We've got no end of resources up here. The forestry industry is also starting to pick up again, with Ontario paying a little more attention to the ideas behind bioheat and biomass as energy producers or heat producers. So we've got not only the resource economy starting to build up, but also some foreign direct investment we're starting to see. So people from other countries coming up and saying, well, here we've got rail access, we've got lots of land, we've got clear airspace. There's lots of opportunities for us to set up shop here. And so we've created a number of strategies for which we have competitive advantages, and we're starting to see some of those ducks come home.
The 3 new mineral exploration opportunities that Maggie just mentioned, how much would you say they represent an opportunity for the Indigenous people who live in this part of the province?
Well, very much so. One of the opportunities happens to be in a small municipality of Chapleau. They're bringing the ore actually to Timmins to process it, as I understand, in one of our communities. Brunswick House First Nation in Chapleau has never had the opportunity to get themselves associated with a mine before. And the community is so excited about working with Goldcorp on this project. We've been discussing the necessity of working with our community with them for a couple of years, and I have to say Goldcorp has been a very good corporate citizen with respect to its relationship with our First Nations, so it's extremely important.
Do the First Nations that you represent, tell me how it works. Do they get first right of refusal on those new jobs, or how does it work?
I wouldn't call it first right of refusal, but we certainly have an employment chapter in our impact benefit agreements that suggests that the First Nations communities and the youngsters from our First Nations need a bit of an advantage and a bit of a hand to enter into the workplace. I mean, we're not looking to displace any of the folks and the fine young folks from Timmins. It's just a matter of our history and the difficulty that we've had. We need a little bit of a boost to get started. So yeah, we talk about kind of special access for our membership. There's no doubt that.
And are the mining companies on side for providing that special access?
Absolutely. We don't have a veto and consent power with respect to their developments, but we certainly have a lot of influence with how they operate. We consider this to be our land, our traditional territory, and when you talk to our chiefs, they're very adamant that. Yeah, you've got to kind of bend to the will of our communities a little bit. We'll meet you in the middle somewhere, but at the end of the day, you're on First Nations territory. You're going to have to come to some understanding with the First Nations.
Or else what?
Or else go work somewhere else. And we've had those discussions, and that's kind of the hard line, Steve. And we haven't really had to get into any civil disobedience or some sort of really loggerheads with the companies. I think there's a real understanding now by the industry that, yeah, I've got to get my Aboriginal engagement and agreements in place. That's a necessity with respect to if I'm going to operate in Northern Ontario. And we've, at this point, we've done 80 MOUs with exploration companies. We have 9 impact benefit agreements. So all the companies that you're talking about, even the ones that are coming on stream, we have agreements with those folks.
Those are big projects featuring big dollars. I want to go to Brianna now to find out what it's like to start a business here in Timmins when you're not talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of potential mineral exploration, but starting a restaurant. What's that like?
It's interesting. There's definitely a lot of challenges. Probably more so for what I'm up to than just your regular run-of-the-mill, normal restaurant.
How so?
We make some pretty bizarre food for Northern Ontario. We don't exactly just make Timmins loves meat and potatoes. I don't tend to make a lot of meat and potatoes. We tend to feature a lot of ethnic food from all over the world, all the way from Africa to, I've cooked Russian.
There has been some in-migration here from countries very far away, right?
Yes.
And you have to meet those culinary interests at your restaurant, or you choose to?
I just really like interesting food, mostly because I grow it, but at the same time, because I grow all of this non-traditional, slightly bizarre food, interesting looking tomatoes and stuff, Northern Ontario doesn't tend to see that in their grocery stores, nor do they tend to see it in their very small farmers markets. So in order to get people excited about the food that I'm growing, I decided to buy a restaurant to cook it. So
I went there this morning. It's pretty funky looking.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's quite beautiful. Well done.
Yeah, well, I love graffiti. So our building is covered in graffiti. Timmins has as any urban center does, has a graffiti issue. I like to combat that with better graffiti. So I actually never get graffitied, which is really sad because everybody's allowed to graffiti my building. I have to graffiti it myself, but.
I want to know, like, she's clearly, a fairly anti-establishment character in town. Do you like that, or do you have a problem with that?
You know what? They serve a niche in the community. There's definitely a good following with their restaurant. They are a little anti-establishment.
Do you eat there?
I have eaten from them. Usually it's out at the festivals that they come out and support and eat, but they make some great dishes in some of the events that we're at, order from them as well. So I think they've done an excellent job in getting into a niche market, and that's really what we need in Northern Ontario, right? Is those entrepreneurs that are willing to break out and try something new and really make a success of it. And I have to give them credit. They've done a very well job in their marketing and have a strong following.
Paul, I want to ask you about this expression that we hear over and over, which is people without jobs, jobs without people. And I want to know whether or not you have the people who are adequately skilled and trained for the jobs that you are going to be featuring once you're up and rolling.
That is that's an ongoing battle, Steve. There's no question. And to to piggyback on a little bit of what Jason was saying, you know, there's big opportunities for youth within the community, both in First Nations and you know, for us white folk. We are staunch supporters of the First Nation joint venture partnerships that exist, and we've had many of those partnerships in the past, and it has come with its own adversity, you know, in the beginning stages, but I think things are much more streamlined and running much more smoothly today.
What was the nature of the adversity?
Understanding the culture, I think, is a big thing, and some of the First Nations awareness program or the cross-cultural training that I took at De Beers was a big eye-opener for me, and I really had no idea as to you know, the history of First Nations within this province and across Canada, and that has really opened my eyes, and it's given me a more clear understanding for sure, but it's also made me more sympathetic to some of the adversity that we face. And so, while you might tend to bounce somebody out the door for, you know, a certain performance, you might tend to give that First Nations person a little bit more latitude as you coach and mentor that person along. I think it's important that we you know, we lead you know, First Nations people and youth in general. We lead them to success. And if you're just going to throw youth out there today and millennials, that's a whole new subject. But you know, we need to be coaching, you know, our youth, and the company's only as good as its people. That analogy couldn't be any more true today than ever before. And we need to embrace apprenticeships. We need to embrace First Nations people. You know, we consider ourselves to be a leader in equal opportunity employment. We employ First Nations people. We work with the local college, and I serve on the Nortec board at promoting apprenticeships into the industry.
We should, I just say, you mentioned the local college. You know, we pointed out there's not a university here, but you do have a community college here.
Absolutely, I'm very involved at that.
Northern.
We
Yes.
we have some great post-secondary education institutes that do exist between Northern College, College Boreal, and University de Hearst. So we have the Anglophone College, the Francophone College, and the Francophone University. We're just missing that final fourth piece to have the Anglophone University, and life will be good in the education sector.
Are they pumping out the grads, though, that you need to make this town hum? I see Brianna shaking her head already.
I think, I mean, you can talk with Paul too, and there's different niches that have shortages in the market. We hear that the skilled trades is going through a shortage. The baby boomers are going to be leaving have started leaving and are going to continue leaving the workforce. So there is going to be needs that our companies and a lot of companies in different segments are feeling aren't met.
Why did you shake your head?
Well, because we are like super heavy niche, we have no agriculture education up here. We also have we have College Boreal that just started a culinary training, but it's very, very, very small. So we're a pretty skilled, very specific place. We are always in a labor shortage. I never have.
For what?
For farming and for chefs, forever, and I never have enough. We especially on the agriculture end, because while I can try to entice people up from University of Guelph all day, farming in Guelph is far different than farming in Timmins.
Sure.
We need some sort of educational base just for that alone. And I know College Boreal is working on that. I was talking with them yesterday about it. But
Your Worship, I want to ask you one last question. We got a minute left here, and I want to put it to you because you're the one politician here. We did a program last night with Gilles Bisson, who is the new Democrat member for this area, has been for 27 years. Very well respected, I have to say, down at Queen's Park, has a good reputation. But he has not been in the government side in, most of the time that he's been at Queen's Park. Do you think this part of Ontario would have done better if you'd elected a government member during any of this past 2.5 decades?
Well, I think that's always definitely a heated question that the debate comes come election time. Gilles is a super nice guy. I like Gilles as a person. He works very hard for his constituents, and he does a better job than most politicians I've seen on the constituency side. But if you talk our highway project that we were discussing, provincial dollars, Sudbury got one-third funding for a new highway in their community to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars.
They've always had a member of the cabinet for the last 13, 14 years.
We have a $120 million highway that the government acknowledged was one of the worst in the province last year and gave us $3 million to start it. And this year we just found out we don't get our next phase of that funding. So I think there's definitely arguments to be made that maybe you have a little more influence of where the dollars goes if you're sitting in cabinet versus not. But I don't take anything away from Gilles. He works very hard.
Gilles would say the solution to the problem is vote an NDP government and he'll be a senior minister in it.
I've heard that theory. I'm not sure. I'm not sure we're getting there in 2018.
Well, you never know. You never know. Hey, listen, I want to thank all of you for making yourselves available to have our discussion here tonight on TVO, and Paul, in particular, to you for having us here at the Bucket Shop. Gorgeous location, and we wish you all well with your future endeavors. And we thank you very much as well for the great hospitality we've enjoyed while we've been here in Timmins. Thanks so much, everybody. Let's thank Maggie Mateer, Director of Community Development for the Timmins Economic Development Corporation, Jason Batiste from the Waboon Tribal Council, Steve Black, that's him in the middle, the Mayor of the City of Timmins. A thank you to Paul Woodward, Vice President of the Bucket Shop, and Brianna Humphrey, owner of Radical Gardens. It is radical, and it's a garden as well. It's a farmer restaurant and an online farmer's market. Thanks so much, everybody.
Help TVO create a better world through the power of learning. Visit tvo.org and make a tax-deductible donation today.